I'm really tall.
Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. Jake is back for another video.
Yes.
Today we're going to be doing the marriage Q&A. I got these questions over on my Instagram from you guys, so if you're not following me there, you definitely want to follow me over there. I interact daily over there versus just like twice or 3 times a week here on YouTube. So if you didn't see my husband's very first Q&A on my channel, I will link it going across the top of the screen. We did a Q&A from the dad's perspective about homeschooling, and we got some really great feedback on it. So you guys were interested in getting to know us a little bit better as a couple, so that's what this Q&A is going to be about. I actually wrote down the questions this time, so that way I am not having to scroll through a phone. So we're gonna jump right in, and the way that we're gonna do this is we're gonna alternate who answers what question. Neither one of us have looked over the questions, so these are gonna be our honest, off-the-cuff answers. So without further ado, let's get into it. So my husband just pointed out that in the clip I said I wrote down the questions, but I hadn't seen the questions, so I can always appreciate him. What I was meaning was I wrote them down, but I haven't like reviewed my answers. I just copied and then moved on, and that was already a few weeks ago. So yes, just to clarify that in case any of you think like he does. Okay, so the first question is from Let Your Faith Be Bigger, and she asked, what are our non-negotiables with each other? So non-negotiables meaning like what are our hard and no rules in marriage?
Ooh.
I don't know. Do you think that's what she means?
Yeah, maybe.
Like what are things that are a no-no in our marriage?
Like you will not take out the trash.
Oh, like that.
I don't know.
I'm like, are we talking about infidelity here,
Yeah,
or what
like,
are we talking about?
Maybe both.
How do you want to answer?
0 tolerance for lying. That's like an unwritten rule, I guess.
Yeah, both of us. Honesty, very important.
Yeah, honesty, lying.
Keeping our family first as a priority and God first.
Yeah.
So like going out and doing things with friends or whatever, like we always make sure that that we run that by the other person and we don't just like schedule those things in.
Yeah, respect's a big one.
Respect
for each other. Like, I guess we didn't really set any rules down. We just kind of like fell into them. Like, you know, we figured out what's gonna give honor to the other one. We're not gonna do something that's gonna bring dishonor.
Yeah. Hopefully. I don't know if that answers your question, but hopefully it does. If you were wanting like less deep answers, I don't know. I don't feel like we really have that.
Yeah, no.
No. We help each other out. Like, I think that that's kind of like, I don't know that that's a non-negotiable, but like I try to help him out. He tries to help me out. So we don't really have too many disagreements over like small things, basically, is what I'm saying. Next question. Kelia Quilter or Kalia Quilter, sorry. How often do we recommend doing a date night? I'll let you answer first.
We do date night.
No, how often do you recommend it?
Do I recommend? As much as possible. But we do once a month. We see that's pretty reasonable for kiddos and not to exhaust the grandparents and babysitters. So about once a month, you know, with all the activities and stuff like that.
And it is hard for us to even make that once a month happen. So I think a date night is a great thing to do every week if you can. We try to be intentional when we can't like go somewhere about at least having a few hours a week of just like reconnecting in some way, whether that's staying up late at night and like watching a Netflix series,
I guess,
or
fire pit with a glass of wine's a date night in the backyard.
Yeah, last night that's what we did. So we sat outside for like 3 hours. No interruptions after the kiddos went to bed. So we do things like that, but as far as like going out for a date night, once a month seems like a decent recommendation if you're a parent who has young kids. Katie Vincent asked, what do we argue most about?
The kids.
My answer too. Parenting for sure. It's hard and difficult.
But like a topic we like, not one thing we argue about. It's like when we're both exhausted.
Yeah.
Like kind of like fed up with everything and just zero tolerance. We're just kind of annoyed and then,
patience is short.
And then we start arguing about something small about like not taking the trash out.
No. But if I had to say what we argue about the most, I don't really like the word argue, but I would say disagree about the most. It truly is the kids.
Oh yeah. Like we don't fight about money. We don't talk about like savings or spending or trips or
whatever else people argue about. Not taking care of the house or doing things like that. It really is always our children. And the things we disagree or argue about regarding them is probably mostly when they need disciplining.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
For sure.
Yeah. Always room for more's asked. This is the perfect question to follow that one up. Do we disagree on parenting techniques? I'll go first. I definitely feel like being a homeschooling mom, I have been refined through the fire, so to speak. And so sometimes I do feel like dad's patience is running short. And this is us being really transparent and honest. And so I don't necessarily disagree with his parenting techniques, but I do disagree with sometimes how quickly he gets frustrated, or I kind of feel like the punishment that he gives out is harsh, a little too harsh for the situation. And so those would probably be the things that I disagree with him on. But one thing that we have had to work on in our marriage is once he's disciplined, even if I don't agree, is not saying anything in that moment, but rather like talking about him with it later, or even if it's like something that can't wait until later, just like being very quiet about it so that the kids don't hear, because I feel like that's really important. So I don't really disagree with his parenting techniques, but he has a high stress job, and and 4 kids is stressful, and we have preteens all the way down to a 6-year-old, so we've got a lot of emotions and things going on, and sometimes dear old daddy doesn't have the most patience.
Oh, for sure. Probably more with the 6-year-old, more patience than the 11-year-old.
Right. And it's like,
ironically.
Yeah, and I feel like that needs to be flipped, because the 6-year-old is just like doing things like crying because she wants to watch a show or something.
Makes
where
sense.
the 11-year-old, almost 12-year-old is having all these big hormonal emotions and feelings, and so I think
it's confusing.
It needs to be flipped. Do you disagree with any of my parenting techniques?
No.
You think?
Yeah, I wish I could just step back. Let you do it.
Okay. Mama of a Tiny Army asked, do we have the same love language?
No, we don't.
Ironically, this was actually a very funny story.
Good question.
So I will tell, well, first, what's your love language? Your top one, because there's 2.
Oh.
Go ahead, tell them.
Gift giving. Or actually be gift receiving.
Gift receiving.
I'm as superficial as they come.
And what was the second answer? Your second one.
Tell me how awesome I am. So like words of endearment, affirmation.
Okay, those were your 2.
And give me something good.
And mine, my first one is quality time, and then my second one is acts of service. So out of the 5 love languages, we have none in common. And we actually did take that 5 love languages quiz, but we took it maybe like 4 or 5 years ago.
Too late.
So we had already been married like 7 years before we took the quiz to find out what each other's love language was. And the funniest part about that was when he did the quiz and his first one came up as a gift, as that he receives love by giving him gifts. I was like shocked and almost fell to the floor because up until that point, I could not thought of one random gift I ever bought him in 7 years. So I had totally been neglecting his love language. And I've tried to up my gift giving game. So no, we do not have the same love languages. Brina J29 asked, how do we keep our marriage a priority? I'll start. I keep our marriage a priority by understanding that if things are not right with us, then everything else kind of falls apart. Homeschooling the kids is not a joyful, wonderful experience when we are not on the same page. And so being reminded that all the other things work around us being unified and centered helps me be reminded that our marriage has to be a priority. I don't think that it's something that just accidentally happens. I feel like it's a choice and a decision to focus on your marriage, because being honest, sometimes it's easier to not deal with it or whatever is going on. Life gets super duper busy. There's always something that needs to be done. And so I feel like it would just be very easy to let that slip away. But for me, what reminds me is like everything in life, YouTube, job, money, kids, vacations, trips, extracurriculars, all of that goes away if we're not cohesive. So that helps me just be reminded that I need to focus on that area. What about you? How do you keep it a priority?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, you could feel when the love tank's pretty empty. Yeah, I mean, it is a priority. I learned recently that I could ruin her week pretty fast. I go off to work and get preoccupied, but then if we're not on the same page, like the night before I go back to work, her week's gonna kind of suck. But mine, I get distracted and around other people, and everyone's encouraging and nice, but and then she's stuck at home with this, thinking about how like we argued the night before,
and my kids complaining at me, telling me school is boring, and the night before us having a disagreement, and like I was explaining to him how leading into my homeschooling week, it is very brutal to start the week like that, because I'm like already kind of feeling like emotionally tapped out, and homeschooling for kids requires so much emotional energy, whereas his job demands like mental energy. Homeschooling has that too, but he's not like emotionally invested in his career, like in his work life. So it's easier to like compartmentalize those things. For me, it's very difficult. So I don't know, communication is like, you have to talk in your marriage. And if you're married to someone, like he does not actually like to have like long, deep discussions. Like he's just not. So sometimes it really takes me being like, we need to talk. And it requires so much mental and emotional energy for him to even be able to like engage in a conversation, because he's not a super emotional person. So knowing these things, but just making sure that we are communicating is huge to keeping your marriage a priority too. And if you have a need, letting your spouse know rather than hoping that they read your mind, I feel like is like a huge thing.
One of those most recent ones where I wasn't contacting you enough when I was at work, and then like you kind of voiced your feelings about it, but instead of just kind of like blowing her off, I'm like, maybe I can just give her a phone call during the day or shoot a text and value her opinion versus be like, you just have emotions.
Yeah.
And just kind of like honor that,
Mm-hmm. So even when you don't understand like what your spouse, why they have that need or whatever, it's just listening and realizing that you're married to somebody different than you, and you're going to have to do things that maybe you don't see necessary but are important to them. Red Poppies for me asks, this is, I know
like your name though.
You'll love this one. Without TMI, do you know what TMI stands for? Too much information.
Oh, okay.
So without that,
I thought it was like TMZ's relative or something.
how do we keep the spark alive at the end of a homeschool day when mom is tapped out?
I mean, look at this.
Are you speechless? You had an answer? Go ahead.
Make her laugh. that turns the day around pretty quick.
That's true. I do love laughing, and he's great for like taking the seriousness out of things.
Yeah. It's good for me too, because like work's sometimes a little stressful, and it's good to get down to earth, laugh at the world, laugh at each other, laugh at the day, you know, just.
We keep the spark alive have been married for 12 years. We've been together almost 15 years. So without TMI, you know, it takes effort. It takes intentionality.
Yeah, just time together, honestly. Like, husbands, get a fire pit, open a bottle of wine, put some cool lights
You are so ridiculous.
Sets the mood.
No, but really, like, it's just being intentional about it. Like, truly, as a wife, you have to understand, like, that there's needs and for both, and like getting spiritual, like you just have to make it happen is what I'm saying. Like sometimes when I'm tapped out at the end of a homeschool day, and that could be the farthest thing from my mind, and it's usually the first thing on his mind, I just have to like let that all go. Sometimes you have to get over like the idea of like I'm so tired. You just have to let that go, and you have to just focus on your husband and your marriage, and it's better for everyone.
Yeah. To keep the spark, step 1, identify love languages.
That's true.
And then mold your date night to the love language.
Good.
Husbands to the wives.
And step 3, make time together, but also have like, this is me speaking, take my advice or leave my advice, but I think having realistic expectations of your spouse in this area is probably a wise decision too. Because we're not robots, and moms can only handle so many needs being pulled from one person. So I'll leave it with that. Do you agree? You like my advice?
Sure.
It's true.
Yeah, it's good.
It takes less energy for most men in that area of life than it does women.
What are we talking about?
Stop. Without the TMI. Ehana05 says, with kids around 24/7, how do we get alone time?
Strict bedtimes.
Indeed.
8 o'clock. Mom, dad time.
I know. Our kids are getting a little bit older, and so I'm starting to feel the need for like the 8:30 range, but I am very selfish with that time, and I do not want to let the 8 o'clock thing go. But that has been something.
You can read for 30 minutes.
Yeah. So you can read in your bed. That has been something him and I have done since we started having kids, and they were obviously like not newborns. Strict bedtime. Because we need a few hours at night to ourselves and with each other, and that is still true to this day.
Yeah, and like I don't want to like offend anyone that does it, but like the bedroom, mom and dad's bedroom, that's our room. Like no kids sleeping in there.
Yeah.
Hands down, like.
I mean, unless they're like vomiting or something like that.
Night,
yeah, but every night.
Like, it's a game changer. Like. Little one, nope, this is mom and dad's room. You gotta go back to your own bed.
Yeah.
You can't just snooze in our sanctuary.
Yeah. and that stems from us having done some couples Bible studies and just like reading what God has to say about marriage. And sometimes it is contrary to a mother's heart, because your kids, and I think this can be true for dads, but I'm speaking as a mom, so I'm speaking to the moms. Your kids, like they're all encompassing, they can just move into that area, and you don't realize that you've kind of shifted your priorities, meaning your children are more of a priority than your husband, and that cannot be that way. And so one of the ways that we've preserved that has been maintaining our bedroom space as for us.
Well, I think it teaches them like some boundaries at a really young age, that you just can't invade someone's space.
Yeah. Like
automatic. So it kind of just sets the like, you own the house except one room.
Yeah.
Just honor it, you know.
And I think it sets them up to have a good picture of what a marriage is supposed to like for later in their life, understanding that like their mom and dad did love each other, and that sometimes we, you know, told them, no, you guys need to go to bed. We're going to have some alone time now, or you guys need to go back in your room, or whatever it might be. So those are probably the two ways that we get alone time, is preserving our bedroom space, of course, unless they're sick or something like that.
Yeah.
And then step 2, strict bedtimes.
Like what's it, the it might hurt their feelings to know they're less on the totem pole, but it's comforting to know that my dad and mom love each other more than anything.
Where'd you hear that?
Pastor Jed Wilhite, Central Christian Church. Like 12 years ago. How it stuck with me. I don't know.
That quote meant a lot.
It's funny, she knew I didn't come up with myself.
I was like, where did you hear that? J.S. Joyful said, how did we meet, and was it love at first sight? So you guys are going to love this. This is so cliche. We met at a gym. Short story, he was in college at the time, and he was back for the summer, and his parents lived in the country club where there was like a little gym facility in a country club, and I was teaching youth dance classes there to little kids. And so I was there teaching, he was there working out, and the water fountain was right near the classroom, and he was a very thirsty workout person that day.
Yes, and the college I was going to at the time was in the middle of the Rocky Mountains, where there's like no other girls. So it was sink or swim, baby. I'm going to cash in on this one.
That's how we met, and he ended up like lingering around, and then we ended up
No.
He did. And then we ended up talking. I was with a friend, he was with a friend, and so we weren't quite sure like who was gonna, you know, like in a double dating situation.
I thought I was gonna play wingman.
Yeah, and I was
Turned
not.
out I was the pilot.
Was it love at first sight?
Oh yeah.
Love?
Yeah, where you get that magical feeling. I'm just kidding. No, inseparable from day one.
That is true.
I mean, what's love until you like grind it out for a few years and go through some garbage first? But yeah, I mean,
I don't really know that I believe in love at first sight, but I knew after having a conversation with him that there was like something different about him, like there was something different there. And at the time I couldn't really place like what exactly that was, but I just knew that like I wanted to keep hanging out and seeing him, and like he said, we have been together since that night, basically.
Yep.
So we've been inseparable since then.
See ya, old best friends. Got a new one.
So I don't know about love at first sight, but we've been in a relationship together ever since then. And he did go back to college 3 months after we met. Yep. And so we did the long distance thing for a while, which was really difficult. But I made a lot of trips to Colorado. And if you live in Colorado, I'm very jealous of you because I always wanted to live there.
Should never move back.
Sodbuster Living asks, meaning me, am I a romantic person or a practical person? Let's see what my husband says. Am I a romantic person or practical?
Can you be both? Because you want romance, but you want it at a cost-effective rate.
Then I guess you can be. Yeah. He's true.
But I am not romantic at all.
No.
And I've tried, and it doesn't work out very well. I'm batting 0.
He is probably the least romantic person on the face of the earth. So I feel like maybe earlier in our marriage, I was probably always like, oh, that would be so nice. And then now...
Years of disappointment.
Now I've moved into the practical side of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I am a practical person. I would much, much, much rather like do something versus like be bought something. I would rather like have an experience or go somewhere over like find diamonds and jewels, and even like flowers. They're nice and all, but they die.
Yeah, like we went rock climbing.
Love that.
But had a Groupon.
Groupon. Don't say Groupon.
But it's an electronic coupon. So.
Yeah, so I'm definitely practical, and he is extremely practical. He is not at all romantic.
Oh yeah.
Like, you don't need like poetry.
If Valentine's Day fell off the face of the earth,
it would be his best life.
It would be awesome.
Okay, I think we are to the last question. So, Memory Maker Mama says, what is our best advice for couples we wish we would have known sooner? Woo! I feel like this is going to be a 5-minute answer. I'll let you go first.
No, I need time to think.
Okay. So my best advice for new couples that I wish we would have known sooner is, well, there's a few things. Number 1 is do not feel pressure, financial pressure, to live up to other people's expectations of you. We got married young and careers were just starting out. And so we definitely went through a season that was, finances were very, very tight. And we felt a lot of pressure from various family members to, like, we had to buy a house because we had a baby. And when you have a baby, you have to live in a house. And that led... We bought a house before the huge recession. If you're in the US, you know what I'm talking about. And that ended up being a really bad financial decision, and we rushed into it, and it was really bad. And it caused us a lot of stress for quite a few years of our marriage, financial stress. Yeah. So I would say, do it your way at the pace that you're comfortable with, and don't let anybody pressure you to feel like you're inadequate because you are not doing what everyone else is doing. And then the other thing that my other piece of advice comes from dealing with blending of families and, in-laws and different situations, is always, 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 always be on your spouse's side.
Yeah.
And have boundaries in place that, those external family members cannot cross, because that also was a stressful situation without giving personal information away. But yeah, those would be my 2 pieces.
Man, those were mine.
I stole yours?
Too. Yeah, it's just to come up with something different. Yeah, it was... I always felt the need to try to prove myself when I didn't need to. I put this like high expectation of what this family was supposed to look like and responsibility, but I was just trying to live up to someone else's expectation of me
through our marriage.
Through the marriage, when that wasn't even like, that's not my expectation or like God's expectation of me. And like this the downward cycle of, and the only victims are me and you when everyone else is fat and happy, and it just
it was hard.
I didn't set boundaries. I wasn't protective of her.
Firm. That's probably the best word.
Yeah, I wasn't a good communicator. Yeah.
So those, I think he's in agreement with my 2
Yeah,
pieces.
but like best advice, I wish I would have started in the beginning. I wish I would have been like uninhibited with like church, the Bible, like started a habit of like praying together.
That's good.
Like more like valued like being emotionally and spiritually close versus just we're in this together, we're best friends and stuff like that. Because like, I'm definitely not there yet on the spiritual side, but I think like the past like 4 years it's been trying to get better. It'd been really nice if we started in the very beginning. So
it also would have been really nice if we would have been like able to go to like Christian premarital
Yeah.
counseling just to talk out some of these things ahead of time. But one piece to understand to our story is that I was a spiritual baby when we met, like barely just like accepted Christ, and he hadn't come to accept Christ until after we were already married. So, you know, that presents challenges in and of itself, but God is good and his grace has been sufficient for all of those things.
Yeah.
So that is the end of this epically long Q&A. I hope you guys loved it. Holy cow, 28 minutes.
Did I talk louder this time?
Yeah.
I hope so.
Give it a thumbs up if he talked louder. I was like, you have to talk louder. Thanks for hanging out with us today. I hope you guys got some insight into our marriage and enjoyed hearing from us. If you did, please give us a thumbs up, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.